They called her the Astronomy Princess. Now, 24-year-old astrophysicist Aria Vance was about to make an impossible 3-mile shot that would defy all military records. "Target in sight," Aria whispered. Sergeant Thorne lowered his binoculars, his voice trembling. "Aria, that's not a shot. That's a prayer." The wind was gusting, the fog was thick. Science says it's impossible, but her finger was on the trigger, her heartbeat steady. She didn't just believe in science, she believed in something more. The late summer air over Stone Bay, North Carolina, was a heavy, wet blanket. Oppressive humidity, thick with the scent of salt from the nearby Atlantic, and the resinous smell of pine trees clung to everything. The relentless buzz of cicadas formed a constant, high-pitched backdrop to the disciplined sounds of the Marine Corps base. The distant bark of a drill instructor, the rhythmic thud of boots on pavement, the sharp crack of rifle fire from a faraway range. It was into this world of hardened tradition and raw power that Corporal Aria Vance, age 24, stepped with a quiet that felt almost defiant. Dressed in an immaculate Marpat uniform, her raven black hair secured in a tight, professional bun that left no stray strands, she did not look like the others. Where they were carved from grit and sun, she seemed sculpted from porcelain and intellect. Her movements were precise, economical, a holdover from years spent in the sterile environment of an astrophysics laboratory. Her beautiful, fair-skinned face was a mask of calm focus, but it was her eyes, the color of a deep-sea abyss, that held the true measure of her intelligence and a sorrow she kept carefully hidden. This difference made her an immediate curiosity, and then a target. Sergeant Rex Bulldog Corrigan was the first to make his position clear. A man built like a munitions crate with a neck as thick as a tree trunk. His face was a rugged map of sun and stress from 2 tours in Fallujah. He believed in instinct, in the visceral feel of the battlefield, and he saw Aria's academic background as a liability. The conflict crystallized during their first team briefing. The topic was urban warfare ballistics. Rex was outlining a scenario with a booming voice that rattled the projector screen. In a city, wind is a beast. You feel it in your gut, you learn its tricks, or you die. Aria raised a hand, her voice steady and clear. "Sergeant, with respect, we should also consider the wind tunnel effect and barometric pressure shifts as a round travels between high-rise structures. It can create unpredictable microvortices." A low, rumbling chuckle started in Rex's chest and erupted into a full-blown laugh. He turned to the other 10 men in the room, all seasoned grunts who smirked in solidarity. "Listen up, men. Princess Astrophysics has a theory. Here, we don't write dissertations. We shoot. My gut tells me where the wind is, not some equation from a textbook." The contempt was a tangible thing in the room. From that moment on, she was the outsider. During team exercises, her meticulously calculated solutions were ignored. She was assigned menial tasks, logging data, cleaning weapons beyond what was necessary, verifying inventory. The men would head to the range for the real work, leaving her behind with the paperwork. They treated her like a showpiece, a product of the Corps' new diversity policies rather than a lethal instrument of war. But Aria's motivation ran deeper than proving them wrong. Tucked securely in the inner pocket of her uniform was a worn photograph of her and her brother, Captain Michael Vance. He was smiling, his arm slung around her shoulder, his eyes, the same deep blue as hers, full of life. Michael had been a legend in the sniper community, a ghost who could appear, strike, and vanish. He had been killed a year ago in Afghanistan, lured into a trap by the terrorist mastermind known as the Ghost al-Shaba. Aria wasn't here to break gender barriers. She was here to finish the hunt her brother had started. The only person who seemed to see past her polished exterior was Master Sergeant Elias Thorne, an older soldier on the cusp of retirement. His face was carved from granite, but his eyes held a quiet warmth that belied his tough appearance. He was Michael's former commander and closest friend. He watched Aria from a distance, never intervening directly, but always present. That evening, Thorne found her alone in the armory long after everyone else had left. The air smelled of gun oil and steel. She wasn't just cleaning her rifle. She had it partially disassembled on a mat, using precision calipers to check the alignment of her scope mounts. "Your brother used to say, Thorne began, his voice a low, comforting rumble, "that a rifle is like a star. Both are governed by the laws of physics. To master them, you have to respect the numbers." He placed a battered, leather-bound notebook on the workbench beside her. Its pages were filled with handwritten charts and equations. This was Michael's ballistics journal. He wanted you to have it, always said you were the real genius in the family. Arya's hands trembled slightly as she picked it up. She flipped through the pages. It wasn't just data. Tucked between calculations for spindrift and Coriolis effect were her brother's thoughts, musings on life, on honor, and on the elusive enemy he was hunting. On the last written page, he had scribbled a note to her. "Arya, they see the world in black and white. You see it in variables. That's your strength. Never let them take that from you." For the first time since arriving at this place of steel and scorn, she felt she wasn't entirely alone. The decisive test, Operation Serpent's Eye, was held in a sprawling urban simulation facility. The autumn chill had begun to set in, and a crisp wind whistled through the fabricated city, kicking up dust and leaves. The objective was complex: navigate the terrain, identify and neutralize a high-value target, and avoid collateral damage to the civilian mannequins scattered throughout the streets and buildings. Sergeant Corrigan was, by protocol, the team leader. Their target was positioned 1,200 meters away, nested behind the skeletal remains of an old factory, its smokestacks creating a chaotic wind pattern. Rex, squinting against the glare, relied on his 2 decades of experience. Winds gusting from the northeast. Feels like a 2-mil hold to the left. "Johnson, you're up. Take the shot." Corporal Johnson, a young, eager Marine, nodded and began to adjust his scope. Arya, who had been analyzing the airflow patterns on her tablet using a custom fluid dynamics program, spoke up, her voice firm but respectful. "That's incorrect, Sergeant. The smokestacks are creating a Venturi effect. The accelerated airflow will pull the round high and further left. The correct adjustment is 2.8 mils left and 0.5 mils up." Rex's face tightened, a muscle twitching in his jaw. "I'm the team leader here, Vance. I give the orders." He gestured dismissively. "Johnson, take the damn shot." The shot cracked through the air. On the monitors in the observation tower, they all watched the bullet's trajectory. It veered high and wide, exactly as Arya had predicted, and slammed into the facade of a building clearly marked with a red cross. A simulated civilian hospital. A catastrophic failure. A heavy silence fell over the team. Rex's face was a mask of stone. "Vance, you're next." Arya moved into position without a word. She calmly input her data, her movements fluid and confident. She took a deep, centering breath, her mind a quiet space of numbers and physics. The rifle recoiled against her shoulder, and the second shot tore across the range, striking the target dead center. The after-action review was held in a sterile, windowless briefing room. Presiding over it was the base commander, Colonel Miller. He was a tall, lean man in his late 50s, with a reputation for intellectual rigor and an absolute intolerance for incompetence. His presence commanded an immediate, tense silence. Data and video from the exercise played on a large screen, showing Johnson's miss and Arya's perfect hit in stark contrast. Miller paused the video, his cold gray eyes fixing on Rex. "Sergeant Corrigan," he began, his voice dangerously quiet. "Your arrogance and your willful refusal to consider verifiable intelligence resulted in mission failure and simulated civilian casualties. This is not leadership. It is a liability." The sentence was delivered without emotion. "You will receive a formal letter of reprimand in your permanent service record. Effective immediately, you are suspended from all command duties and will be assigned to the mandatory 3-month course on modern tactical leadership and team collaboration. You will learn to value the minds of your Marines, not just their trigger fingers." For an ambitious NCO like Rex, it was a career-ending blow. He stood ramrod straight, his face flushed with a mixture of shame and fury, unable to utter a single word in his defense. Arya felt no triumph. The validation was hollow, leaving only the bitter taste of isolation. That evening, she found a quiet spot overlooking the base, Michael's journal open on her lap. She read a line he had written about Thorne. "Elias taught me that a soldier's greatest strength isn't how well he shoots, but how deeply he trusts his team. Thorn appeared beside her, a silhouette against the setting sun. "Don't mind, Rex," he said softly. "You did the right thing today." In this line of work, ego kills more soldiers than bullets do. He glanced at the journal. "Michael would be so proud, Arya, not because you were right, but because you had the courage to speak up when it mattered." His words settled her restless thoughts. She realized her path wasn't about revenge, but about protection. Protecting her team from fatal errors, protecting the innocent, and protecting the honorable legacy her brother had left behind. Urgent intelligence sliced through the late autumn calm at Stone Bay. The ghost, Al-Shaba, was confirmed to be attending a high-level meeting in a valley on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border in 48 hours. The location was a fortress, surrounded by hundreds of loyal fighters. A direct assault was suicide. An airstrike risked unacceptable collateral damage. Only one insane option remained: a single shot from a mountain ridge nearly 3 miles away. Colonel Miller summoned Arya to his office. He laid the satellite imagery on the table. "Corporal," he said, his voice devoid of rank, "this isn't an order. It's a question. Can you do this?" Arya studied the topographical maps, the wind pattern forecasts, the sheer impossibility of the numbers. She thought of Michael. "I can try, sir." A small elite team was assembled. Thorn would be her spotter. To everyone's surprise, Sergeant Rex Corrigan, leaner and quieter after his remedial course, volunteered for the security detail. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a focused humility. Dropped by a stealth helicopter 10 miles from the objective, they began the arduous trek through the unforgiving, moonless night. An unmapped Soviet-era minefield blocked their path, but Rex's hard-won combat experience guided them safely through the danger. In that moment of shared peril, Arya saw the soldier he was meant to be, not the one his pride had made him. When they reached the firing position, the conditions were a sniper's nightmare. The wind swirled unpredictably through the valley. A low-hanging mist, combined with thermal shimmer from the rocks, distorted the view. Doubt, cold and sharp, began to creep into Arya's mind. As she struggled to get a stable reading, Thorn spoke softly beside her, his voice a steady anchor in the chaos. "I ever tell you about Michael's last mission?" Arya shook her head. He had Al-Shaba in his sights, a perfect shot. But the bastard pulled a child in front of him as a shield. Michael didn't fire. He chose to let his target escape rather than harm an innocent. The story cut through Arya's anxiety. This wasn't about vengeance. It was about honor. It was about upholding the very ideals Al-Shaba sought to destroy. The mission was no longer a hunt. It was a statement. Suddenly, through the swirling mist, the target appeared. Al-Shaba stepped out into a small clearing. Arya looked through her scope, seeing not just a monster, but the men around him. Warriors, fathers, sons, all caught in the same brutal conflict. She pushed the complex calculations from her mind and remembered her brother's words, the harmony of mind and heart. Her mind had done the work. Now, her heart had to feel the moment. She sensed it. A brief, almost imperceptible lull in the wind. A window of clarity that would last only seconds. She squeezed the trigger. The bullet's journey was an eternity. 10 seconds of deafening silence stretched as the team held its breath. Then, Thorn's voice, cracking. With emotion, came through the comms. "Target down. I repeat, target is down." The valley below erupted in a storm of retaliatory fire. Their position was compromised. As they scrambled to retreat, an RPG exploded on the ridge above them, sending a shower of rock and shrapnel raining down. Without a second's hesitation, Rex threw himself at Arya, shoving her to the ground and taking the brunt of the blast across his back and shoulder. He roared in pain, but his command was clear. Protect the shooter. Move. His selfless act saved her life. The single shot fired by Arya Vance sent a shockwave through the global intelligence community. The chaos that followed Al-Shaba's death allowed a covert Spec Ops team to raid the compound, seizing laptops and ledgers that laid bare his entire network. What followed was a silent 6-month war fought in the shadows. Coordinated raids from Paris to Jakarta dismantled the organizations piece by piece. Financiers in high-rise offices, arms dealers in lavish villas, and cell commanders in hiding were all brought down by the data trail that began with Arya's bullet. A year to the day after the mission, Arya sat with Thorne in the base's quiet day room, a television murmuring in the corner. Rex, now a gunnery sergeant with a new, thoughtful sobriety in his eyes and a web of scars on his shoulder, was recovering well at a hospital in Germany. He and Arya had spoken via video call a week prior. "Vance," he had said, his voice raspy but sincere, "I owe you an apology, and I owe you my life. You taught me that a true warrior listens before they shoot. Thank you." A bond of profound respect, forged in fire and humility, had replaced the old animosity. On the screen, a news anchor with a serious expression announced the verdict from an international military tribunal. 12 defendants found guilty of financing terrorism and crimes against humanity. The court has sentenced 7 of the accused to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The remaining 5 have received sentences ranging from 25 to 40 years. Justice had been delivered, not with a single bullet, but with the systematic, undeniable weight of the law. The debt owed to her brother and to countless other victims was finally paid. 2 weeks later, in a private ceremony in Colonel Miller's office, Arya stood tall. The only attendees were Miller and Thorne. The colonel pinned the Medal of Honor to her uniform. The medal felt heavy, a physical manifestation of a moment that would remain a classified secret. "I accept this honor," Arya said, her voice clear and strong. "Not for myself, but on behalf of my brother, Captain Michael Vance. His courage and his principles guided the shot. This medal is his." Thorne placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes gleaming with pride. It was the last time she would see him in uniform. His retirement papers were already filed. Arya did not return to the field. The call of the battlefield had been answered, but it was not where she belonged. Instead, she accepted an offer to become the head of the newly formed Advanced Ballistics and Modern Tactics Department at the Marine Corps schools in Quantico. Her new battlefield was a classroom. Her new mission was to teach, to shape a new generation of snipers who understood that their greatest weapon was not the rifle in their hands, but the mind behind it. She taught them ethics, responsibility, and the science that underpinned their art. She had found peace, not in the quiet finality of a CIA kill, but in the vibrant potential of her students. The legacy of Michael Vance, and now her own, would live on, not in a single impossible shot, but in the hundreds of better, smarter, and more honorable soldiers she would send out into the world. In the end, was Arya's incredible 3-mile shot simply the result of science, skill, and a lifetime of training? Or was it something more? When you look closely, you see a moment that defies simple explanation. The wind that calmed just for a few seconds, the clarity that washed over her in a moment of extreme pressure, that was the miracle. It was a moment of convergence, not just of physics, but of purpose. God does not always move mountains for us, but sometimes, in our most critical moments, He provides a perfect fleeting window for us to use the unique, God-given gifts He has blessed us with. In our own lives, we all face our own impossible shots. It may not be a target 3 miles away, but a difficult challenge at work, a crisis in our family, or a struggle within our own heart. Arya's story reminds us that the talents we possess, whether in science, art, leadership, or simply kindness, are gifts intended for a higher purpose. When we align our skills with a righteous cause and move forward with faith, we open ourselves up to moments of grace that make the impossible possible. If this story of faith and purpose touched your heart, please share it with someone who might need this message of encouragement. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts on how we can use our own gifts for good in the world. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for more stories that uplift and inspire. May God bless you all, and may He guide you in every step you take.